Are you ready to be the best that you can be? Join hybrid business coach and consultant Charity Brown and her guest as they give you behind-the-scenes access to the insider tips and tricks that will help you take your business to the next level. Charity has an extraordinary approach to boosting businesses to break out of their modes, influence their industries, and become leaders of their packs. And she's ready to pass this inspiring knowledge on to you today. Learn how to change your game and build your business into what you've always dreamed of, right here on the Create Clarity with Charity podcast.
Hello and welcome to Create Clarity with Charity. Today, I have an amazing guest. Yes, Korede Alabi is here. He's the CFO of a major manufacturing firm in Portland, and he's also the chair of an amazing nonprofit. And he has a lot of insight and leadership skills that he wants to share with you guys. So welcome, Alabi. Korede, sorry.
Thank you, Charity. No, Alabi's fine as well. It is my name. So yeah, either one. Yes.
We'll start with we're on first name basis here, sir. So yes. We'll go with Korede. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know as a CFO, there's not a lot of time for small talk and chit chat and all that kind of stuff when you're leading a big corporation. So I appreciate your time, sir. This is an awesome opportunity for my audience to hear from you.
Thank you for having me, Charity.
You're welcome. Cool. Yeah. So let's talk about this. I mean, you're a little different than my regular podcaster, but you do stem from business and you do know a lot about leadership. You may not want it to be the CEO of your own firm, but you've sit in many positions of authority and leadership. So it's kind of the same thing. In a way when it comes to team building and leading and things like that.
Absolutely.
So I think we'll still get a lot of value out of what you're saying on my young entrepreneurs and my startups. They will be able to find some value in this, I'm sure. So let's start on the journey of you coming into this leadership style that you have that's very strategic about, being fair and harmonizing and, creating emotional intelligence. Let's go all the way back where some of these main things were instilled in you at a very young age.
Sure. Absolutely. Again, I'm humbled to be here and thank you for having me today. Well, I was born in Nigeria in West Africa. I spent my first 18 years in Nigeria. I was born to a mother who is an accountant, and also my father was an architect. So they were both professionals. And my father has since passed about 4 years ago, but he instilled just a lot of simple life lessons in me. I watched him. He was an entrepreneur. He started his own architectural firm in the 70s and built a firm that became, at one point, it was the largest architectural firm in the country for about a 25-year period. Oh, wow. And it all started from nothing. And he came from a very, very poor background financially. So he was self-made. But he kind of instilled like just humbleness and the ethic of just hard work. I learned from him. He was a very simple individual. And he was not a business person. He was an artist. My father was a technician and very much in the mold of a traditional architect, where he wasn't very interested in the business side, if you will. He liked to draw and he liked to construct just beautiful designs. And my mother was where I kind of got my business side from, because she was an accountant. She stopped practicing after she had like a third child, but I think that's where my curiosity on numbers comes from, is from my mom.
Yeah. Well, good thing they instilled that in you, because, it's not an easy profession. So there must have been a lot of joy and things that you admired about it as a young boys, that kind of encourage you to go into that in your adulthood, right?
No, absolutely. I think, yeah, I think the creative side I found out very early that wasn't necessarily my forte. I actually went and spent a summer as a very young teenager working at my dad's firm. And I found out very quickly that being an artist and designing was not in my future plans.
Yeah.
I was more drawn to numbers, kind of, what's behind metrics and kind of how do things add up. So I was just more drawn, I think, with just through conversations with my mom and watching her kind of be kind of the household accountant, if you will.
Mhm.
I was more
Kept your
I was
dad
more
all together.
yeah, exactly. I don't know how she balanced it, having two young kids back then, but I was just more drawn to that side of life.
Lovely. So they also, took time to, really instill some good principles, strict principles, in you when you were younger. Tell me about your upbringing with the military school and the missionary school, and
Sure.
some of the leadership skills that or things that help drive your passion for what you're doing now from back then.
Absolutely. So my parents, especially my dad, was a very practical person, and he, when I was, when we were all young, my dad thought, oh yeah, these kids needed some structure and some discipline. Um, I wasn't a bad child, but yeah, like all kids, I would throw temper tantrums once in a while, and could get distracted from time to time. So my dad thought it would be a good idea when I was young, basically at the age of around 10. He thought, sending him to a boarding military school might be a good thing, just from a discipline and structure and accountability side of things. So off I went. They shipped me to an Air Force military school in a town called Jos, Nigeria, as a young 10-year-old. And it was a 5-year program where you were basically a military cadet in training. So the school was twofold. You had academic classes like a regular school would, and then you had military classes and military drills. Very early on, I learned how to make my bed.
Right.
Very early on, I learned how to, wake up really early in the morning and, make breakfast, clean the rooms, kind of sweep the floors around you, clean bathrooms. So there was some really good practical life experiences that were instilled through that military school
You still make your bed every day?
Funny enough, yeah, I still do. I still do. I
You
did
know how
stop.
bad a day will go when you don't make your bed?
I know, I know. The day doesn't feel like it started till two things happen for me. I make my bed and then I have coffee.
Yeah.
Then I feel like, okay.
I love that. I thought I was the only weird one. Like I literally OCD over that. And I didn't go to military school, but my grandmother was always like, make your bed first thing in the morning, and she like fold it like this. I mean, I'm not as meticulous, but I still make the bed. So sorry.
Absolutely. It puts you in this frame of mind of kind of structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
It starts your day off like, okay, I have some structure, and I'm doing something.
Yeah.
So those were great. There's some great experiences there. Unfortunately as well, being in military school, the individuals that were a year ahead of you or 2 years ahead of you, You had to respect them. You had to call them sirs because they were your seniors as well. And they could also punish you as well if they felt, they could discipline you if they felt you weren't obeying orders, or you were out of line on something. They could discipline you.
So it wasn't like coaching and mentorship, it was more disciplinary.
Correct. It was more discipline. It was more discipline. And some of it got out of hand, which was why I eventually left after 2 years at military school. My parents felt that the discipline side of things wasn't necessarily very constructive. Because
more like abusive, possibly borderline.
Yeah, potentially abusive, and so that was why.
Good parents to take you out, right? Because I mean, I've heard horror stories where they're just sent away to boarding school for like 5 years, and all kinds of crazy happened, and their parents wouldn't believe them, and they just pretty much wanted to off their kids. So at least yours cared to bring you back and say,
no, they did, because my mom would visit once a quarter roughly, and she would see me all disheveled, my clothes not properly ironed, or my hair not in the right place and disheveled. So she knew something was wrong.
It wasn't bettering you.
It wasn't bettering me overall net. It wasn't a net positive from that side of things. So she whispered into my dad's ear that I'm not sure he's really enjoying this experience, even though he's picking up some good traits.
Some standard training and core values and activities we should all kind of embrace, but it wasn't fulfilling, and like coaching or mentorship, like a lot of things we hope that we could get our kids involved in at a young age so they can evolve, right?
Exactly. There was just some destructive sides to it, just from the discipline side, that they thought, maybe he's too young, or that those could be lasting impacts that might not necessarily be good for a constructive mindset down the road.
And when is violence good, right? Like we all know that now, that discipline and violence is not a very good combination. Like old school, the rod, everyone can beat their kids and then be okay, but that's really not the best.
Absolutely. Because when it gets physical, then especially at that age, it might not necessarily be the best.
So then they took the heart-centered approach and say, hey, well, maybe we'll go with the more Christian missionary approach, right? Maybe God and having a good foundation for that. And so you went to a different school that instilled probably more kind practices.
Yeah. And there was still a lot of accountability in the missionary school that I went to. But that, honestly, the missionary school was called Hillcrest High School. Actually Hillcrest, it had a elementary, middle, and high school, and it's still, I would say till today, it's still the best experience of my life.
Oh wow.
Because I went to Hillcrest, basically I went back a year, I repeated a year, and I started in 6th grade. And Hillcrest was a school in the middle of Nigeria, in the city called Jos. And Hillcrest was a missionary school, it was a boarding school. So it was run by Western missionaries from the US, from Europe, different denominations, the Baptist, the Christian,
Catholic, Christian,
church,
everyone,
everybody, Lutherans. So you had kids from probably 30 to 40 different countries in the school.
So it was international.
It was very international. It was kids of like diplomats. It was kids of the missionaries who were serving in Nigeria or other parts of West Africa. And then it was the kind of the local Nigerians who, took the exam and could get into that school. So it was a very neat structure.
Nice.
It
So it built
opened
you
my eyes.
confidence and made you feel like you're part of something great and more.
Yeah, it did. And it also opened my eyes to just different cultures at a very early age. Here
Nice.
I am growing up in West Africa and being exposed to kids from Seattle, Washington,
Oh
um,
yeah.
Portland,
Wow.
Oregon,
Yeah.
kids from Denmark,
Oh, cool.
kids from California, kids from, Syria and Lebanon, and kids from just all parts of the world.
Yeah.
So it actually, I would say, was my first exposure to seeing that human beings are really more similar than they are dissimilar.
Hmm.
Our interests are very, very similar, and what we want out of life is very similar.
Hmm.
And with an open heart, with a little bit more curiosity, um, we're all very much the same.
Hmm.
And that experience at Hillcrest, being in boarding school for 6 years with all of these kids from all over the world, with different cultures, different religions. We had kids in our school that were actually Muslim,
Yeah.
as well. So different cultures, different religions. It it humbled me, and also was a great revelation that um, we're really one,
Yeah.
as human beings.
And what a gift to have that at such a young age. That's what we need to be doing right now with our students instead of dividing them, bringing them
Absolutely.
together. And then when they graduate, we won't have all this division and all this craziness that's going on in, uh
No,
our
you're a Charity.
society.
You're absolutely right. And these are kids that I'm still very much in touch with today.
Oh,
We
cool.
have like WhatsApp chat groups and other types of forums that we still kind of relate to each other and have
Oh,
conversations.
what a blessing.
Um,
So many people
yeah,
don't
it's
have
it's
that.
it's
That's
it's
wow.
it's been a great blessing
So
looking
you get to
back at it.
mentor each other and be there for each other and nurture each other all through life. And
Absolutely.
that's
And
amazing.
that experience in that missionary high school, middle school taught me that a lot of things are possible in this world, regardless of what your background is.
Mhm.
It really showed me that if we focus on what makes us like the same, what makes us similar, that's a whole lot more powerful than some of the divisive things we tend to see and hear in our society.
Yeah.
It also, just showed just the power of being more humane with each other, if you will, and connecting with each other on just a human level, regardless
Mhm.
of what your background was.
On a heart-centered level, it's about universalism and not being so critical about ourselves and others, right? And being accepting and taking out all the filters and all the societal norms and judgments and all that and looking at people at face value, right?
You're absolutely right. And being curious, right?
Yeah.
Having differences of backgrounds, cultures, experiences, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
And being at Hillcrest taught me about just being curious, asking questions, trying to understand. I remember my girlfriend back in high school when I was at Hillcrest. She was Muslim.
Mhm.
Her father was, in general in the military in Nigeria, and sent her to that school. And she was of a different faith than I was, but we became close friends and dated through high school. And
Mhm.
um, didn't, the fact that she was Muslim actually just piqued my curiosity about about Islam, and learning, oh, why do you
Mhm.
fast and what's behind that and things like
Yeah, and
that.
why the hijab and the
Yeah,
hijab and
exactly.
can we date? Can we hold hands? Oh
Yeah.
no, I mean, like it's very different, and to like be
Yeah,
able to experience that at that level at that young age, and
yeah,
it is a real gift. And you took that with you into your corporate career. Like you've done some amazing
absolutely.
things. You came to the US very young, 18, like
Hmm.
fresh, right? You didn't really
Yes.
you didn't really know what to expect. But with that guidance and that missionary school and values, you came here with the open heart and you came to win. So let's talk about that, because you did some amazing work while you were here. You got your degree in finance and accounting, right?
Absolutely. So I came here after graduating from high school. I went to a missionary college, actually a Christian college in Grand Rapids, Michigan, called Calvin College. It was affiliated with my school back in Nigeria. It was a school that was run by the Dutch Christian Reformed Church. And that school, the college still exists. It's a great liberal arts college in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I went there I was supposed to go there for 4 years, but I ended up going there for 2 years and then transferring to the University of Michigan.
And that's no easy feat. Good luck getting
No,
in
that
there,
wasn't an
right?
easy feat. Yeah. Michigan.
You had all A's. You had to.
Yeah,
Good
Michigan
student,
is
that's
known
for
as
sure.
a very challenging academic environment. It's an all-purpose school, as I like to call it. They're great in sports, great in academics. I wanted to challenge myself and go to a school like that, and kind of also broaden my horizons and have a more enriching experience in the U.S. So University of Michigan was a great place to do that. I also had a brother who was at school there as well. I used to go up there and visit. And so I ended up going to Michigan and then studying business as well, kind of following in the footsteps of my mom and being curious about numbers. So
So with that being said, I mean, you leaped out with your degree. You got an MBA?
I got my BBA from University of Michigan, and then I did a graduate program there as well. Correct.
Awesome. And then you went to Big Corp.
Then I went to Big Corp, which is a whole different proposition.
Yes.
Correct.
I don't think they teach you the skills for that in college, actually, the interpersonal skills. I mean, maybe the problem solving skills, the debits, the credits, the understanding financial statements, like you get the foundational stuff, but the office politics, the wild ride, the corporate ladder, the glass ceiling, all these things that a lot of us entrepreneurs experience as well. But you've had an amazing career in corporate and love it and still thrive there, because that's what you're still doing. But it wasn't always a lovely experience, right? I mean,
no, it wasn't an easy transition. I mean, Michigan, having a great academic background, taught me a lot of kind of the technical foundations, the basic, as you mentioned, debits and credits, and just kind of honing in my technical skills. But I went and I got an opportunity with American Airlines in Dallas, Texas. It was more of a training program, like a practical training program, where I rotated into different departments, purchasing, food and beverage, asset management. And that was a neat experience. So did that. And then as a junior analyst, if you will, and General Electric came calling. Somebody got a hold of my resume and contacted me about a position with GE in Erie, Pennsylvania, with a GE Rail was the name of the company. And they also at that time promised to help me with my green card process as well. So it was a pretty compelling opportunity. GE also had a great reputation in those days as well, as being like a great technical training ground. Six Sigma was a hot thing back then, and so there are lots of just skill sets that I wanted to learn. So I jumped on that opportunity and ended up being a GE for 9 years in progressive roles. I started out in Pennsylvania, then I came to Oregon, and then I was in India also for a short time,
wow.
helping set up a shared service there. So I spent 9 years at GE in different progressive roles.
But that wasn't necessarily the best foundation for the type of leadership that you kind of had experienced in your missionary school and at school, and the camaraderie amongst, all the international students and everyone being of that one mind, kind of one heart kind of thing. It was more like authoritative.
Yeah, it was, well, it was being run by Jack Welch when I was there for most of my time there. And then Jeff Emmel took over. And Jack was known for, instilling discipline, Six Sigma approach to solving problems. It was relied on a lot of positional authority in terms of influencing and getting things done. Some people would call it kind of the old school mentality, if you will. It was about the bottom line. It was about results. So there's some positive things there, right? In terms of, being focused, disciplined, focusing on outcomes and trying to get positive outcomes. But a lot of it was not really based on what I would call a constructive, engaging culture. It was more, if you will, fear-based, positional authority-based. And you just learn to adapt, at that time.
Yeah. And that's, especially in positions of power when you're dealing with billions of dollars and, everybody's bonuses are on the line and the KPIs are driving everything and the net profit margin is all that matters. It kind of gets like into this like soulless like thing, right? That we have to do every day.
Absolutely. And at that time, I had no idea that there was another way to do things, or another way to still get positive results, that could be maybe more constructive, more engaging, more of a positive experience, if you will.
Like kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't know what I didn't know, I guess.
Yeah. And that's what you kind of thrive on now. Like you spent your time in the box in that corporate gauntlet, kind of like, they already have it all constructed for you. Like you can't really reform or re-engineer an entire corporation, but you can at ground level if they give you the authority to, right? Like what you're doing now, which is amazing because you're the VP, right?
Yeah, right now I'm the CFO / executive vice president. Correct.
Yeah. And so they're giving you a lot more freedom and bringing in the, quality management style that nurtures the human spirit, that connects people with communicating better, who gives them better workplace. It's not just focused on net profit margins and KPIs, but those are all very, very relevant, in business. You have to have those kind of benchmarks, but it doesn't mean everything. Actually, the quality of the culture is more important and people enjoying their jobs and enjoying their life while being there, right?
You're absolutely right. I think, one way to say it is, in my GE and even my Vestas, which was the other, public.
Oh, you're coaching. That's right. Because you're big on coaching. You invested in Vestas, right?
Yeah, I would say that in my public company experience, it felt like it was profits led to culture. But in my more recent experience, over the last, 7 to 8 years, it's more about, the culture leads, to the profits, leads to better performance. So it's ensuring you have that right culture, the right core values, if you will, the right mission, the right teams, the right folks in the right seats, if you will. But it's about the culture. If you have the right culture, you foster an environment where people want to show up, people want to perform, people are happy doing what they're doing. we all have challenges from a day-to-day basis. It's not all kumbaya throughout your whole experience. But if you have the right foundation, it allows you to kind of build success on a more regular basis and enjoy what you're doing. So, and then I think that was a difference, I think, between my GE experience and the experiences I've had in the later parts of my career. It's flipped the other way, where it's the culture that leads to the performance and not the other way around.
Yeah. So listeners out there, as you know, that's kind of what I focus on here, is that heart-centered entrepreneur, but he's really taking that into heart-centered corporate environment, which is a lot harder because then you have bigger teams, and then the upper CEOs and everyone has to be on board, the board members, that with this cultural shift, with this freedom and expression and being able to wear your hair like you want it, stop all the inequality and unjust practices in HR, and just clearing the deck and coming with the solutions, right? Instead of just continuing on the path of whatever was working, it wasn't really working.
Absolutely.
So I love that you're a change maker and that you're really in there doing what matters, because not only that, you're giving back. So you're that heart-centered leader that goes into corporate and says, hey, we need to have a little more, understanding, better communication, more surveying on how well the people are feeling, not necessarily measuring how well the profits are right now. And also taking that back to our kids. So you're the chair of an amazing program that really gives back as well. And it's just awesome, because I had a big sister too when I was in 6th grade, who would take me swimming and stuff and pick me up and take me to
that's great.
and I'll
That's
always
great.
remember those moments of how special I felt,
Yeah.
and to be part of an organization that's instilling this coaching kind of mentality, the mentorship, and at a young age, and how important that is. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. And that's, it's, as I've kind of progressed and built what I would call my, emotional intelligence IQ, kind of just focusing more on how you influence in a constructive way, and how you, create more equity in our society, and how you balance out things, which should never be done at the expense of performance. It goes hand in hand. They all need to tie together. But there's been more of an emphasis for me on equity and helping, and kind of giving back, and trying to provide some kind of structure for, kids that are in challenging situations, right? We've all heard it. Kids are obviously, they're the future. They're the future employees. They're the future leaders. They're the future C-suite, future changes of the world. And, we have a lot of kids that are in despair, even pre-COVID. And kids just that are growing up in structures that I didn't have to grow up in. I didn't even realize how lucky I was to have 2 engaging professional parents, who had, the best interest of their kids at heart. And over the years, I've, obviously come in contact with just kids in challenging situations. And it got me curious, and I got involved with the Big Brother, Big Sister organization, that provides mentorship to, middle school kids and high school kids. And these mentors become like, lifelong coaches for these kids. These are long-term relationships, they're not 1 or 2 year relationships. And I found that, this was just a neat, great organization that was doing something in the community that I feel is much needed, especially at this time with, mental health challenges, with, kids just kind of being in challenging situations on the home front. And I've had 1 or 2 kids in my life experience who are no longer with us, unfortunately, who I think about Back when I was in school at Michigan, there was a, teenager who was a cousin of a close friend of mine who at University of Michigan. And he didn't have the right mentors and, got involved with a bunch of things and was murdered, unfortunately, in Michigan. And I keep thinking about him and wow, if he was in the Big Brother, Big Sister organization and had the right mentors, his path in life would have been completely different.
Yeah.
So it got me engaged and involved with the Big Brother, Big Sister organization. And
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the key, you guys, audience, even as young kids getting coaches and mentorship at a young age, the ability to re-steer someone from the wrong path to the right path, or just to be an influence to get them to go a little bit this way, can save them from a lot of heartache and challenge. And, even if there's anything that we can do to help facilitate something like that in our heart-centered leadership path. And so that's why I brought you on. You're a little different. I like that we're in the same, field for a career, that we're kind of, in the finance accounting world, but you also have that heart-centered leadership style. And there are a lot of benefits from evolving into that, because like you were saying, you didn't always feel that way. It was you didn't know any different. You were in corporate so long, that's just what drove everything. That's just how it was. But now you have this more heart-centered approach of camaraderie and culture and giving back and instilling all this wisdom in the youth. And I just love that. And so you're just a good example for everybody. And we're running out of time here, but I know you have some amazing quotes and maybe some last words for our guests, encouragement on, getting some key leadership skills. Anything you'd like to tell them?
I think I've read a lot of books, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, How to Be a Great Boss, Radical Condor, to name a few that I've read recently, and lots of great lessons there about, just, managing and optimizing people and driving change in the right way. But I think my favorite quote is actually from my dad, who, one of the favorite things he used to say to me was, think first, act second, be curious about people and things around you, and then be kind.
Yes.
There are lots of other quotes that have influenced and shaped my progression, but I always go back to, architect Sunday Alabi and those simple words that he said years and years ago about just, think before you speak, or before you offer up solutions. Be curious about things around you. And that curiosity is what led me to live in different parts of the world. And then be kind. Try to be of something bigger than yourself, if you will. Have a mission, a purpose-driven life or mission-driven life.
Yay. So that's my favorite Amen quote. To that, Korede. Thank you for that. And we all should live by that foundation. That's so key. I mean, think before you act. Like, it's really, really intelligent to think before you speak as well. Yeah. So also, I just love that I had the opportunity to interview you. Thank you for being on my show. And everyone, if you're looking to do something, give back, look up the Big Sister, Big Brother program. What is a weekend a month to change a kid's life, literally? We can all do that and feel super awesome about helping our future. So thank you for all that insight and wise words, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you very much, Charity, for having me. I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, have a beautiful day. Ciao.